relate to the family, how to change behavior, how to have an empathetic conversation, how to, all of this is best practice. And I think a good care delivery system does all of these things.
If, let's say, you could get, well, you mentioned the woman and having a baby on her and how much that helps. Can you expand that knowledge so that hospitals throughout New Mexico start doing that with mothers? Or
So we have definitely pitched that idea, but this innovation belongs to Columbia University, and so typically it's the person who does that work, right? And they have to want to democratize it and use their model. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Not terrible, but I think that ECHO is so far a coalition of the willing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not a forced thing. It's a way of. Yeah. It's the reason you're here is that you're one of those willing people. I mean, you spend your time and energy to come to the conference. Why did you do that?
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah. So the same thing is true. People have their own interests, their own things to do.
Yeah.
But yes, if they came to us, that's an innovation I would be dying to scale up.
It's interesting that you can own an innovation that way. It almost makes it sound like a trademark or something.
It's not an ownership, but what happens is that they have developed one really good way to do this, you see.
Yeah.
If you just are doing it your own way, it may or may not work, no?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right? Because you want to do it in a way that you're 100% sure it works.
I see.
Because these are important things. Again, and I think they're acting through this idea that an infant brain, I mean, think yourself for a moment like a baby that comes out of mother's womb where everything is warm and fuzzy and then you're coming out in this world and light and noise and it must be a pretty scary thing.
Oh, I can imagine.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, I think that mother's touch and all of these things are probably, that's why there's been a lot of evidence how physical massage of a child by the mother, the touch. Are you a mother?
Yes, yeah.
So, you can relate to that, right?
Oh, yeah.
How touching a baby and massaging their body and without talking, the baby cannot understand language, but it understands that language. And actually, this whole issue of why I believe that trauma causes all this dysfunction comes from that fundamental knowledge base of what the opposite does, right?
Right.
The caring, when you're touching your baby and kissing the baby and holding the baby, that creates amazing. I bet you did all of those things, didn't you?
Yeah, and what you're making me remember is that my daughter really loved, I don't know how I landed on it, this certain thing I would do to her back, like this, kind of tapping it. And if I do it to her now, she still has the same response, immediately relaxes.
Yeah.
It makes me want to fly and see her do that to her back.
So that's why I think these things are so, so important, that this, we need to scale up some of these best practices.
Right.
Like breastfeeding, you may not believe this, for 20-something years in the middle, a lot of women didn't do a lot of breastfeeding because it's not fashionable to do it. But now we're finding, God, you don't do that. It affects the babies, everything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And women were working and they didn't have time to pump and...
all of that, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's possible that the real great value is the milk, but also the touch to the breast.
Right, exactly.
Right? So all of these are... So we want to use ECHO for scaling up every best practice known to man. Because literally what's happening is, what I'm finding as I'm going around the world, which I'm doing constantly, just I recently was in South Africa, and I'm going to Georgia on November 26th, which is 10 days from now.
Yeah.
Is that it is completely scary how difficult it is to get best practice knowledge out. It's not easy.
Because
there's so much knowledge. There's no easy way to get it out to people who need it. They're not all reading the New York Times. They're not all reading the New England Journal of Medicine. They're all going to work